of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, 7.5-point favorites. That's where the line opened. And the total opened at 52, 51 even at some books, or 51.5. It has been bet up, currently stands at 53 as far as the public money and bets. And you can find this in the Action Network app. 60% of the bets, 55% of the money are on the Kansas City Chiefs, the 7.5-point favorites, as we record this on a Wednesday night. And for the total, 65% of the bets on the over, 59% of the money on the over. And I do think the second half stuck will play a key role in this game because, number one, it depends on Derrick Henry and the game script, and if the Titans are able to kind of keep it close and continue with staying with him in the second half. And you just look at the Titans' second half record this year against the spread, and it's 14-4. They've covered 14 of 18 second half. So how do you see this one playing out, and where are you going with your pick for this week?
Well, that was another big part of last week. Like, one of the things the Titans do is you have Derrick Henry, who, by the way, is going to be running in I didn't even check the temperatures, but I assume 20 degrees, and they're just going to be feeding him as long as they don't go down, and they're a team that even if they go down 14 in the first quarter, they're still going to feed him. Right. But there comes a point where you probably got to start throwing, but you assume he's going to get 25, 30 carries in this game, especially against the Chiefs defense. But one of the things why they're so successful in the second half is they are wearing teams down. They're wearing defenses down. And then just in the second half, it's just now Henry's having even more success and you're possessing the ball, which was one of the key things that the Ravens didn't do last week, is that those fourth down, when you turn it over, you don't convert on those fourth downs. You're not controlling the ball as a ball control offense. And then you're giving the ball right back to Tennessee, who was able to control it. And then Henry just ran wild. But the first thing you have to look at here is with Kansas City's run defense, it is a joke. It's not a fake narrative or anything. It's really bad. And last week on the podcast, I went through player by player, on a couple guys on their edge, some of the worst in the league against the run. All their linebackers against the run. I mean, they're not even rated in the top 60, 70 among qualified linebackers. And then you have the question of Chris Jones, who didn't play in that first game. Henry ran for 188 yards. And it was a game Kansas City led, I should know, 29-20 in the fourth quarter, and a bunch of fluky things happened, and Tennessee ended up winning. But there was no Chris Jones in that game either. He's huge up front. And, something else to note, no Thornhill at safety. You saw that big play. It was kind of a blown coverage on the outside. But what does Tennessee want to do? They want to just run it to Henry a bunch and then set up play action. And given the Chiefs' run defense, you're going to have these safeties creeping up, and you're going to see a number of shots, I think, completed if this game is close and Henry is just eating them alive up front. So that is the worry if you're a Kansas City fan. On the other side of the ball, I just don't know how this Tennessee secondary can really slow down Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes is his first game back from his knee injury. The first time he played, he still threw for almost 400 yards, maybe more, somewhere.
446, I believe it was.
Yeah, yes. It was a huge day. And now you have Logan Ryan, who's actually pretty good against the run. And I thought that's huge against the Chiefs. But he might not play, and he was sick. But he's not going to be able to cover anyone in the slot. He's one of the worst slot corners. Tyreek Hill came out today and said no one can cover us. And when they're healthy, he's right. So that's the concern for Tennessee, and that's why you need to possess the ball for as long as you can. So it's an interesting game from a total perspective, which I think you're going to get into.
Yeah.
Because if Tennessee is just churning the ball, and they're not a fast-paced team just because they're running it so much, that's going to help the under. And then when Kansas City has the ball, though, they're going to play faster, and they should be able to throw on Tennessee. And then a lot of it's going to come down to, can Tennessee sustain this insane red zone touchdown percentage? They don't use their kicker. I mean, they're at 90% of plus since Tannehill came in and scoring touchdowns in the red zone. That's historically great. The Ravens were number 2 in the NFL this year at 68%. So I think it's a fascinating game from a total and a side perspective. I think ultimately that Henry's going to have a ton of success, especially if Jones out. That's going to set up some play action. I don't think Tennessee is going to win this game, but this reminds me a lot of, some old Ravens Patriots games when the Ravens go up there is a big under. They're catching 7.5. It's a tough-minded team, and they'll find a way to cover. And the extra day of rest for Tennessee, it's got to help a little bit. This is a team playing its 4th straight road game, which you have to note. So getting an extra day should help. But the defense is banged up. They have one really reliable corner in Adoree Jackson. He's playing a little banged up too. So it's going to come down to how much of success can Henry have, and then can they convert in the red zone? And based on what I've seen from the Chiefs' run defense and some of the injuries, and I think that Henry's going to have another big day. He's running for basically 200 yards every game lately. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I'm looking at Henry's numbers right now, and so on our Fantasy Flex podcast this week, Sean Corner, Matthew Friedman, and I, we break everything down from DFS, but Sean also throws out his props, for each player, kind of a key projection that he's trying to sharpen, get right. And I think he threw out a prop, something like 100 rushing yards for Henry. And I told him I had him projected for 130. And
I probably still bet the over.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at the, because of course, there's only 2 games, so we'll kind of touch on other bets besides just the spread and the total. And I know you're leaning Tennessee with the 7.5 here, and I think Henry is an interesting bet because even if Tennessee does fall behind, whether they cover or not, I mean, I think you can parlay it with this bet, but Derrick Henry over 150 rushing yards is plus 202 here. Over 161 is plus 257. Those aren't out of the question. This guy has gotten 30 plus carries in each of the past three games, and he has 6 games over of 149 or more, and they've all come in the last they've all come since week 10. So they've all come with Tannehill at starter. They've all come since week 10. And this, I think he's going to be the key. And
it's a good run blocking unit against a bad front seven. Their offensive line isn't great against the pass, but this isn't a team that's going to come out and drop back. They're just going to feed Henry and set up some play action shots and some some throws on first down on play action. It's not, so it's a team that matches up pretty well offensively. Defensively is another question, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, I'm taking the under 53 as my pick for this game. We're each going to take a side in a total, so it's not much choice. My pick for the other game, I will say, is more confident. We're going to we'll just do 2 points per pick here. So I think you're down 3 now with the
55, 52.
So if you get both right and I get both wrong, you'd be in business here. But you need me to get both of these wrong. So hopefully I don't, but we're talking Titans here. So I probably will get this one wrong, but I am going under 53. And the reason is, Tennessee was a very profitable over team, during the regular season with Ryan Tannehill as the starting quarterback. And then when they got to the playoffs, you started to see the unders hit. And I think that the one way that you do kind of hit the under in these Chiefs games is you have to play ball control and you have to play like the Titans play. And I think, to your point, when Tennessee, even if Tennessee gets down in the first quarter, second quarter, I mean, I think even into the second half, if they're down 14, 21 points, they're going to run Henry because, as the lead gets larger, defenses will, play the pass a little bit more either way. Derrick Henry, 5-6 yard gain, still better in the scheme of things, making him drive the field than, giving up a big play on play action or something like that. So I do think that Henry will kind of decide this. And I think because the Titans kind of play that ball control, even when, they're down in games, I think that the under is still more likely than the over to hit at 53. I mean, you look at Chiefs games, 9 of the 17, so just over half of the Chiefs games this season have gone under, actually no, 10 of the 17 have gone 53, under 53. So, that's a large number for any 2 NFL teams to hit in a given game. I think it's inflated a bit because of what happened in that Texans games where, it ends up being 51-31. That's 82 points. You see that. And I think, as a casual bettor, you're looking at the Titans now, who continue to outperform expectations, and you're saying, okay, yeah, they had some under games, but I think the reason that one got bet up, even though we see more of the money, there's a discrepancy there where there's more money than bets on the under. The total still goes up. I think that's mostly to do with kind of casual bettors inflating that one a bit. So I like the value there at 53 toward the under. And I just think that, it's interesting. The one thing about the Chiefs, kind of a silver lining, I would say, for them without Thornhill, is that I think they, in passing situations, at least on third downs and medium to long, or in the prevent, whatever not, they will play a lot of two safety deep, because Thornhill was really the only safety that they trusted in single high. Now, that hurts on early downs because I don't know. Like,
that's what I mean. For like an early play action shot.
Yeah. You can't play. I don't think you can play two safeties deep against Tennessee. And I think that's one of the ways that this Tennessee offense has been so successful in the pass game, because you look at Ryan Tannehill and you say, how is he having, all this success when, he was kind of a middling, below average quarterback throughout his career with the Miami Dolphins. And play action is, of course, a large part of it. Per Pro Football Reference on play action passes this season, he is 58 of 74, 78% completions for 1095, and this is during the regular season. So I got to add in the splits for the last game, but just during the regular season, 58 to 74, 1,095 yards, 8 touchdowns, 14.8 yards per pass attempt, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks, 143.5 rating. And then in non-play action, though, he's still been very good. 67.5 completions, 14 touchdowns, 4 picks, 104.8 rating, and 7.8 yards per attempt. That's still pretty good. That's above the league average yards per attempt, just with all plays, just with non-play action for Tannehill. And I think part of it is, as with Henry being such a threat on the ground, it's almost like every play that's not like a third and long is like a play action, even if they're not, faking to the running back, because you still have to you're like, as a linebacker, as
on the field is looking at him.
You're looking at Henry, and you're bringing your linebackers and your linebackers up close. You're bringing probably a safety down, and you have got, because like, this isn't just the Titans going play action and it's AJ Brown going off. I mean, last game against Baltimore, it was Khalif Raymond that caught the long touchdown. When you have, and I think that works to the Titans' advantage. In the Patriots game, it was Firkser catching a touchdown. I think it works to the Titans' advantage that you can't devote more than a man coverage, like a single guy, to a Khalif Raymond, even if you do think he's going to run 50 yards down the field. You can't double a guy like Anthony Firkser in the red zone, even if he is a guy that Titans like to throw to their tight ends in a red zone. So I think that's kind of how they've had this red zone success, with everyone looking at Henry. I think that's how they've had this success in the pass game beyond just play action. It's just the threat at this point of the run with this guy. So I think that Tennessee, they'll have success in those areas. They'll continue to have success in those areas, but because they're so skewed toward the run and they've run the ball, they've dropped back, under 20 times in these last 2 playoff games. I'm leaning toward the under here just because, Patrick Mahomes, yes, they can score fast, but Tennessee, this is a defense that, Houston played man coverage. I think that's something we should point out too. Houston played a ton of man coverage because they felt we can't match up, in zone. He's just going to pick us apart. I think Tennessee will play a little more zone. They don't blitz a lot. They don't blitz a lot. They don't get a lot of pressure, but one thing they do is they'll tend to double team 2 guys a lot of the time. So like in the Patriots game, they doubled James White and Edelman on like key third down plays. And so I think you'll see some of that with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce getting doubled on certain plays. And yeah, that'll open up other things. But ultimately, I think Tennessee will do whatever it can to kind of force Kansas City, to drive down the field and try to limit the explosive plays. So, everything's going to kind of be set up. Tennessee's going to be working, toward this under. Kansas City's going to try to get off to a fast start. But when you're talking about, let's say Kansas City does get off to a fast start and they do get up, 14-21, I still think that plays into the under again because, number one, it's just going to be a little bit harder for Tennessee to be efficient if the more the threat of Henry is removed, and they're still going to play that style anyway. So either way, I think there's more things than not working in favor of this under at 53 here.
Yeah, it's a really high number for a conference championship game. The only scary thing is, and if you could just get a little regression on these Tennessee red zone trips, it should hit. And it's worth mentioning Kansas City, by the way, has a special teams advantage, and Tennessee's kicker is going to be kicking his first field goal attempt of the year in the conference.
Tennessee's,
Maybe. Maybe he won't, but yeah, if you can even get a little regression in the red zone, they settle for a couple field goals, it should hit. Just the only scary thing is that both offenses match up well with both opposing defenses, right? So the Kansas City's have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. You have one of the best backs who's on fire, and then Tennessee, really good run defense, not so great against the pass, banged up secondary, banged up linebackers. It looks like they should get Brown back. Evans is also banged up. Now, can anyone really cover Kelsey anyway? No. But and then just in general, on their secondary, also a little banged up. And they're trying to cover one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So just on the surface, the matchups favor both offenses significantly, but it's a really high number. And you just need a couple things to go your way, and without even turnovers in the red zone, and you should get there. But yeah, so my play, your play's on the under.
Yep.
I'm going with Tennessee, and just when in doubt, in general, and look, it doesn't work every week, and you got to look at the matchups. And I love the Henry matchup here. And when in doubt, I'll always fall back on taking, a touchdown or more in the NFL playoffs. It's about a 60% proposition over the last, since 2003 in our database. So that's, it'll be interesting to see how nuts Henry can go and if he can get Tennessee to the Super Bowl.
And speaking of how nuts Henry can go, that is a good segue into the fact that we, once again, are still running our Fade Ravel promotion with our friends at PointsBet Sportsbook. This week, our colleague Darren Ravel predicts that Derrick Henry will not score a touchdown. So if you think Henry will score a touchdown and you do want to fade Ravel, PointsBet has boosted the odds from minus 200 to even money that Henry will not reach the end zone. Their biggest odds boost so far. Personally, I think that even at even money, it's probably at best a toss-up. I think he gets into the end zone, but Darren Ravel, he's been on with these picks, so I think he's due for some regression. Yeah, Ravel's hot. Got a chance to hang out with him a couple of days ago. Shouts to him. But I think that he is due for some regression.